Hello. So I've been recording myself describing my experiences with ayahuasca ceremonies. And I have had 6 ceremonies so far. I have described 3 of them. And so I thought I would describe another today. I don't really feel like it. I feel a bit awkward today. But I'll do it nonetheless. So, this experience I'm about to describe was the 3rd ceremony I experienced back in December the 9th. And I attended the ceremony it was the first of 2 nights on a long weekend. And so this experience was fairly visual. It began by me looking up. I was laying down on the mattress and looking up. And the first thing I remember seeing was 3 columns of light. But they seemed like channels because light was flowing through them. There was a central channel, and there were 2 adjacent secondary channels on either side. The central column of light was white, and it actually had some also bluish color and some symbols coming down, like golden symbols in between blue and white light. And half of this I'm remembering from memory, and half of it from an audio recording that I also recorded myself. I'll probably link to that audio on the video description. But so there was this one column, and I was looking at it from below. So the symbols were coming down, and the symbols looked alien-like, or like Indian, Tibetan, Thai scripts that I did not recognize. It could have very well just been alien script. And on either side, the columns of light were made of more greener light, and the energy was not flowing downwards but upwards. So it was like as if this central column of light was flowing light downwards, and the side columns of light were flowing green upwards. And as I was seeing this, and as I focused myself on what was up, I floated up, and I found myself like looking upon a large, wide open landscape, not a landscape, like I will call it a landscape of sorts. But in the horizon, there was something like a city, like a large city of gold. But not just gold, but it was like this, almost like a structure. Like I was in one of the corner of a structure, and there was like a huge square rectangular plaza around, but with columns but it was all tinged with golden material. Gold here on the columns, gold here, and then on the horizon there was like this enormous entrance all the way like beyond the plaza. Like stairs and platforms that not necessarily, I don't even remember if they were connected, but the cities where the city was like further out in the distance, and it was like pyramid shaped, and there were stairs that went up, very regal and very majestic, and like off in the distance, kind of like what it seems like when people depict what do we call it, Asgard in the Thor movies, or Valhalla, like this city of gold and light in the background. And it was not just gold and light, but rather there were like, I remember there was this like enormous statue kind of in front of the city, kind of like an enormous monument. There was like statue, it kind of looked like a Buddha. And I had the impression that it was alive. Like it wasn't just a statue of Buddha, but rather like an actual entity that looked Buddha-like. It was kind of sitting, but what I remember was that was there a mouth? Was there like an enormous mouth spilling out something? I'm not sure about the mouth, but there was rainbows. There were like waterfalls of colors in the rainbow pattern, falling down from the city in several layers, going down into the sky, the world, I don't know. But the city just seemed like it was high. It looked like it was high, and that it wouldn't just went up, upwards somewhere. And these rainbow waterfalls just were out in the distance, and it just seemed like this majestic vista of fantasy world, like pure fantasy and light world. Not unlike what Fantasia depicts on its representation of the Beethoven's Sixth, the Pastoral Symphony. Disney's Fantasia. Focus, camera. Focus. Better. So there were all these rainbows. Like a city and statue and columns and stairs, and it was just a magnificent sight. And I could tell that even beyond the city there were entities that were starting to like meld and blend into the celestial, into the heavens. There was something going on at the end, like it would start to get starry or even related to galaxies. But I was in this plaza, in this corner of the plaza, and I kind of was waking up there a little bit, kind of like just like figure out what's going on, what is this? And then as I was like kind of felt like I was sitting down in that corner of the plaza, and it felt like I was next to other people. And in the physical world, I was next to other people. We were laying down side by side on different mattresses. But it seemed to me like there was like a row of people / entities that were in robes. At least they would certainly look humanoid. They seemed like they were slightly larger than me, that walked, or at least slid, kind of like in a human shape at least. And what I saw is that they would approach me and that they bowed. They saluted me, and then but they were in a row. So the first one saluted me, and then they went by, and then the second one saluted me, and they went by. And I thought, oh, okay, these entities are saluting me. And they seemed to me that they lived there, or they resided in that kingdom, city of gold and light in the up in the higher planes. And that seemed like, hello, they're saluting me. Okay. And I didn't know who they were, really. They simply seemed to me that they were likely higher entities. So all this time, I think I had like an inner conversation going on with myself, or with a higher part of myself that I felt was kind of guiding me. Like I asked questions, and whenever I felt curiosity towards something, I was kind of moved towards that area. And I remember that I was being kind of led up into the higher realms, of like going up into the city and going up into rainbows and light. And at that moment, I had a thought that I thought, you know what? I could go up there and I could see like what is all the truth up in the unfocused. What is all the truth up in that galactic, starry, golden city thing over there? But if I do that, and then I come back to my body, I'm not going to be sure what to do with that information. Because I could realize I'm still in my body. I still have a body, I still have something to do in this world. And if the things that I read are true, then I'll probably eventually go and see that eventually and be there too. So I'm not too much in a hurry. You know what? How about I take this opportunity right now to maybe to clean my body a little more, maybe to get to know it a little better, maybe to heal something in my body. And I remember thinking that, and then right then and there, my focus began to whoop. It came back into my body, and I began to scan, or to be moved, really. I began to be moved around and figure out where the different sensations were in my body. And this I'm going to tell from the recording, I don't remember it directly from memory. But I came over to the chest area, to this solar plexus chest area, and I could see/feel a wire frame of this area, like the ribs. Like they were like a wire frame of energy. And that inside, it was empty. It felt empty. And I felt pain because it was empty. And it was painful. So it was like it wanted to be filled with something, but it didn't have anything. And I think I asked my guide or my entity to help me fix it, help me with that. And then I immediately saw like this entity kind of became like a snake kind of entity that began to, like in my inner vision, it began to, like, from here it kind of like went into the energetic part of my body, and like it kind of like pierced into the membrane of that area, of that empty wireframe. And what I remember very vividly is that the moment that it pierced, the moment that it like it opened up something into that emptiness, my body began convulsing right from here. Look. And I often have convulsions from here. It's something that my body comes with, and I'm not exactly sure what it is, what that's about. But the immediacy of how exactly at the same time these things were happening, and they were happening. I was not thinking like, oh, let's make the snake go in there visually, or oh, this must mean that my body must convulse. I was observing. That was truly my role, and the fact that I observed these two things so coincidentally is another one of these pieces of evidence that I keep remembering, to remember this is a real thing. It's just, I mean, I convince my own mind that it's more than fancy and whimsy created by psychedelics. But so I convulsed, and I don't quite remember what happened, but I convulsed a lot. At some point my focus moved over to my legs. I had a traffic accident 13 years ago. My body did accident where I broke both my legs and my right arm as well. And it took quite a few months of healing, a few years actually, to really even not know that it was there anymore. And to this day, still, sometimes my legs hurt and sometimes my arm hurts. And when I was going through it, it was very strong for me emotionally, for several reasons. There was a lot of frustration mixed in there, a lot of anger, a lot of resentment, a lot of helplessness and despair. And those emotions, I believe, were imprinted into some of the injuries that I have in my body. Because throughout these 13 years, very often I move in a certain way, or I place pressure in a certain place of my body where these injuries are, and I feel the pain, but also immediately, it's not just the pain of, okay, I continue, but it's like, and I get pulled down into an emotional state of tears wanting to come out, and or sadness, or like frustrated sadness that is wanted to cry, but it's immediate. So all these emotions had been locked in there for a long time, and so this time when I was during the Ayahuasca ceremony, I decided to take the opportunity to go and talk to them, have a conversation with them, see how they were doing. And I found that they were angry. I found that they believed that I was neglecting them. And I think I was. I would not consider my person to be a very careful person. I'm a person who focuses more on what I want to do, and I do it with less regard for how to do it than whether I do it or not, whether I achieve it or not. And so I can be careless sometimes when I do things, sometimes I can be reckless, and that includes reckless with parts of my body, like my legs that hurt. And so several times I've wanted to run, maybe to catch a train or to catch an airplane, or just because I feel like it, or just because I feel like I should be able to exercise running. And when my body hurts, I have mostly considered it a weakness, an obstacle to surpass, an obstacle to overcome that pain It's an obstacle. I can get over it. Oh, that's just temporary. I can get over it. I can stand it. It's just 5 more minutes. It will be okay. And it's not often that I take the time to heed my body's request for rest. But this time, well, I listened to them. I let them speak. And they screamed back. I asked them how they were, and they said they felt like slaves. They said they felt neglected, ignored. Even though they begged for help, they begged for rest, they begged for just give me a little time to rest or take it easy on me. And I would ignore them. Ignore them because, like I said, I have tended to focus more on whether I get something, whether I achieve something, rather than on how I do that, or on what it costs. And when they yelled at me, they screamed at me, they were hurt, they were resentful, they perhaps were permeated with part of the resentment that I brought, that I as a person brought into my person, like they held it against me as a kind of recursive relationship. I felt very regretful when I heard them, when I heard him. My right ankle was speaking. And it was speaking in a way as in, you don't take care of us, you don't listen to us. How will you ever listen to us? We are helping you, we are doing the best we can. And you just keep plodding on, you do not listen. And it felt pretty terrible. And in that moment, I made a connection, at least in my mind. I made the intention to make a connection between my right ankle and this bottom right area of my heart area, so that when it hurt, it would activate this part of my body as well. It would tell me here as well, so that I perhaps would be more sensitive to it. I don't know whether that's worked, since it has been almost 6 months since then. But so, yes, I talked to my right leg, and then I went over to my left leg, and it's very interesting. I feel my right leg as a she, with my left leg as a he. And he was also sad, also frustrated because I wouldn't listen to him sometimes. But probably because his pain was not as frequent or as thorny, as acute as my right leg. Probably it was not as resentful. And I remember also saying, well, I apologized to my right leg, and then I went and apologized to my left leg. And I think I apologized a bit more profusely to my left leg than I did to my right leg. And right after I finished with my left leg, or even before actually, I could start feeling the complaint that my right leg was sending to me. It was complaining like, how is it that he gets more of an apology than I did? I have been having more pain than him. Why does he get more of an apology? And I realized, I feel like I'm the manager of all these living entities within my body. And in particular, in this case, of the parts that have suffered, of the parts that are damaged, of the parts that suffer pain. And they feel like children. Just like children that are like asking for attention, like, oh, give me this, give me that, give me this, give me that, because asking for the things they need. And it struck me that it seems to me that it's our responsibility, like the responsibility of the person, of this whole person that we are, that you as well also are, each of us. We are the managers of this system. And as such, we have the role to manage each of our body parts, everything in our body parts, all of our body parts, and not just the body parts, but also our emotions and our thoughts and the interrelation between all of them. We're a complex system. And it just struck me very clearly that, yes, we are managers. We're not a single monolithic entity that we simply lug around and we order to do everything we want. I mean, yes, we do that. We command it to do what we want, and it obeys for the most part. But our parts also express, and they desire to be listened to. That was the main takeaway I took from this experience. Yeah, so I scanned my body, really. Scanned my body to feel if there were any pending issues that wanted to be healed. But those were the ones that I remember the most. Oh yes, interesting. So, as I was scanning my body, I was also feeling that each time that I healed some other part, or that I established communication with another part of my body, it seemed to me that I was sort of releasing something. If there was something stuck, like a resentment or an anger or a lack of communication, there was a lack of flow between this channel. When there was a flow established, it was like something was released. This blockage or this something was like something that didn't need to be there went away. And so it felt to me like I was kind of like releasing things from myself. And there was this one particular feeling that felt quite interesting, because I was scanning my body and I felt something that didn't feel released, like here. I wasn't sure exactly where, but it was very near near between my legs, pelvis, lower abdomen area. And as I felt into it, as I scanned it, and I tried to establish a conversation with it, it felt like such a deep connection, because at that moment I was trying to release things, like, okay, what else can I release? What else can I separate, make flow, make clean somehow unstick for me from things. And when I came to this part specifically, it felt like I was trying to unroot a very deep part of myself. And yeah, it felt like I was like trying to pull something that was like deep. And the way I felt it inside was that it was like a plant. But it was not. It's not just like it was a plant, but I was a plant. Like I was some kind of plant that was rooted here. And I was trying to pull out that connection, but like that root connection to my body, perhaps. So the connection between my mind, higher self, to my body, perhaps. But there was something there. And I was like trying to pull it apart. But something inside, something deep was like, no, you're not. You're not getting rid of that. And the impression I got was that that was perhaps my root of identity. Like the identity of this person that I hold. And that it was super unwilling to let go. It was like, no, you're not getting out. You're not, no. You're not killing me. I am. Like I am the most important part, or I must survive, or just like it would not yield to just my simple pulling. At least it seemed. Yeah, and it was kind of like hurting even when I tried to do that. But hurting at a deep level, like at a level that I thought if I managed to actually disconnect myself, I had no idea what would happen, because it would be unlike anything I've ever known before. Because it truly felt I have had this connection with me my entire life. So that was something pretty particular I noticed. I also danced during the ceremony. Not exactly danced, but I did feel free to move around. I liked it. So that was most of my experience with my third ayahuasca ceremony. That will be it for right now. Goodbye.